Greetings, good morning, and good afternoon. We are at another episode of Breakfast Intellectual Bites. And today we're going to speak about serving the other people and serving the families and the communities. I'll start today's episode of Breakfast Intellectual Bites with Albert Einstein's idea that only a life lived in the service to the others is worth living. Then this quote throws light on the idea of providing services to the family, to the communities, to the people that are dear to us. And people generally serve the others in different ways. Then there are people that serve their families. There are people that serve their communities. There are people that serve the people in a certain field. Today's guest is a person who knows what serving the people means, really. He's serving not only his own family, but a lot of communities in the country and outside the country. Then I have chosen to call and to introduce him as a Renaissance man. Sometimes people misinterpret the term Renaissance man. That's why I'm going to start with a short intro, what this means. Then the term Renaissance man has a lot of synonyms. The synonym that I adore is the universal man, and it was coined in Renaissance Italy. And it refers to a person who is good in doing many things in many domains. Definitely, you know that there is one personality that is named Renaissance man. He is the most vivid example, the most emblematic example of a person doing many things in different areas. That's Leonardo da Vinci. But we can find a person in Arkansas, the United States, that can be called the Renaissance man of the 21st century. And there are certain reasons for calling this personality a Renaissance man. And I'll mention some of the reasons that you understand why I have chosen to name today's episode the Renaissance man of the 21st century. Then first of all, this personality is a true Renaissance man because he never claims that he can accomplish everything, but he can do everything by committing his time and energy. He's an inventor and at the same time an explorer. This personality is a true Renaissance man because he never stops learning. He is not afraid to experiment with different materials and different learning environments. He's charismatic, then his intelligence charms can work miracles on the people he socializes with. This personality that you are going to meet shortly can be called a Renaissance man because he always stays informed. He is an extremely interesting interlocutor, and he is a free thinker that proposes revolutionary ideas to different problems. And this personality can be called a true Renaissance man of the 21st century because he acquires analytical skills. That means he is practical skills. He's analytical. He can apply concepts from different fields in developing his own ideas. But that's not the time to meet the person yet, because we have another guest who is going to introduce the person that you are going to see shortly as a person who serves the family. Hello, Sydney, and welcome to Breakfast Intellectual Bites. Could you speak a little bit about this person? We're the people intrigued about the name of the person.
Yeah, so he's definitely much more than just a person to me. He is a father-in-law, and as a father-in-law, he is helpful and selfless. He's always going above and beyond to give us an extra hand. As a grandfather, he's very much involved and he's incredibly inspiring. He's just always finding ways to be hands-on with our children. As a father, he's hardworking and he's respected. You can see in his children that they are, they aspire to be just as diligent and have the same work ethic as he has. He's a man full of knowledge and talent. He's just always encouraging people to apply themselves and to inspire everyone to harness their creativity. He's really just a man of honor, and I'm blessed to be a part of his family.
Okay, thank you so much. Then I think it's high time to introduce the Renaissance man of the 21st century who comes from Arkansas. That's the distinguished professor of STEM education, Michael Dougherty, who invited us to his house. Hello, Dr. Dougherty.
Oh, welcome to my home, and thank you for joining us today. We're really excited to have you, and I look forward to spending a little bit of time talking to you today and maybe showing you around our world a bit. So come on in the house, and we'll get started.
Okay, then we are at Michael Dougherty's house virtually, and we're very excited. Okay, could you introduce the members of the family? Because I see one of the people who represents Michael Dougherty's family.
Okay, so this is my wife, Gina, and this is my grandson, Bo. Bo, can you say hi?
Bo,
Bo.
say hi.
Okay,
He's busy.
He's busy with the puzzle.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah. So
thank you so much for accepting the invitation. Thank you so much for inviting us to your house.
Sure.
Okay, then we will start with, as we are inside your house, then we will start with the concept of the family. I have quotes, and I want to tell me what quote is closer to you. Then the first one is, the family is the test of freedom, because the family is the only thing that the free man makes for himself and by himself. And the second one, my family is my life and everything else comes second as far as what's important to me. Then, Dr. Dougherty, could you tell us what quote refers to you and to your concept of the family?
Well, I think that the second quote is important to me because I think that nobody ever lay on their deathbed and wish they'd spent more time at work and less time with the family. I think that it's important to balance your life, and now mine's not always been balanced, but I've worked hard to try to balance it later in life, and I think that's an important thing. Like right now, we have two sons that live with us, and then a daughter-in-law and two grandchildren that live with us, and I think that's really made life more interesting. And it's certainly a pleasure to come home from work and in my academic pursuits and have the opportunity to just play with grandchildren and be with my sons and get completely away from the academic world.
Okay, then you're very rich. You have 3 sons, 1 granddaughter, 2 grandchildren. You're extremely rich. Okay.
Right.
Then next to you, Gina is sitting, your wife. I have a question for Gina. Then we are speaking today about the concept of Renaissance man, and Dr. Dougherty can be called a Renaissance man of the 21st century. But before we are going to go to that concept, I would like to speak about Mike, your husband. Can you describe him as a familist?
Mike is as a what?
As a familist, as a Remember?
Okay. Mike is very ambitious. He always has been. Whenever he has set goals, he's always achieved them. He's very diligent. He works hard at everything he does. He's always been an overachiever, which is one reason why I was attracted to him. He's very responsible, not only for what he does at the university, but for providing for our family. We always can count on him when for anything, when something happens, or just to be kind of the leader of the family. He's very inventive. He always finds new ways to do things. He loves inventing things and coming up with new projects all the time, and that's been really fun to watch. Let's see, he's very resourceful, and that's one of his greatest qualities. He can make something out of anything. Instead of going to buy something new, he will reinvent something old into whatever purpose he needs it for. And so you'll see in a little bit, his barn or his shop is just full of little things, but he always just uses all of that to make new inventions or to create new things. And I think that's one of his greatest qualities.
Okay, thank you so much. Then I really believe that everything that all the features of the quality that you have cited, they describe Dr. Doherty, complex personality. But if we speak about the family, do you have some family traditions that you would like your boys to transmit to their kids?
I don't know that we have just kind of set family traditions, except that Mike and I both have large families, and we love spending time together on holidays or just any reason to get together. Not only our parents and our siblings, but cousins and their children. So we have camp outs together. We just love to get together and do things. We have some things planned in the mountains this fall with everyone. And one thing that I would hope that my children would continue to do is to spend time with each other and their cousins as much as they can, because family is so important.
Okay. Then as far as I could understand, Mike Doherty, the one that you met, was a complex personality. Then you chose him because he was the best. Was he a multitasker when you married him?
Yes, he's always been that way. He's always balanced work with fun. And that's one thing that I appreciate about him, is even when he was building his career and working so hard to get to the position that he is in, he always balanced that with a good family life. He worked very hard while he was at work. And when he came home, it was mostly just time for us and the kids. We had 3 sons, so they were busy in sports. So he would come home and just spend time with them and with us and doing things around the house. And I think maybe that's why he hasn't gotten burnt out on his career, because he did come home and doing fun things at home.
Okay, thank you so much. Now I have one question for you both.
Okay.
How were you born in Arkansas first? Were you born in Arkansas? Okay.
We're both from the state of Oklahoma, which is the state immediately to the west of Arkansas. And we grew up there, but then after college, I got my first academic position in Illinois, just south of Chicago. And so I worked there in Chicago, south of Chicago, for 15 years, and we lived there. And we came to Arkansas in 2005. So we've been here about 17 years.
Okay. do you think that Arkansas is the best place that you could ever choose to live in?
Well, we love Arkansas because it's just a beautiful place. It's mountain. The part of Arkansas we live in, as you know, is mountainous, and there's lots of rivers and streams, and we like the outdoors. So there's a lot of hiking and kayaking and canoeing and a lot of natural beauty. And we've taken you on hikes, and you've
Yeah.
seen some of those beautiful places. And we really like the outdoors. And that really led us to build the house here where we live, is because this house, I'll try to show you some pictures in a minute, but we're right on top of a mountain and we can see both directions for many, many miles down the mountain. And it's just a beautiful place. And the people here are very friendly, and the university is a good, strong university. So it's a good match for us.
Okay, if you've said that that's a beautiful place and you live within the nature, could you prove it? When we would like that you show your property.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Okay,
We're gonna have to
then
flip
give.
the camera around.
Okay,
Now,
great.
let's flip the camera.
We're gonna try
Okay,
to flip the camera.
good. Then, dear people that are following today's Breakfast Intellectual Bites, we're going outside. We want to see Dr. Dorothy's property.
Okay, so we have our property here is 20 hectares and a little bit more than 20 hectares, and it's mostly forested. We live on top of the mountain, and you can see, I think, down the mountain in the distance, and that mountain in the far top of the picture is probably about 15 or 20 miles from here, so you can see the distance. And first I'll just walk you down, and I'll show you one of our other interests, which is farming. We have some farm animals, and we'll share those with you.
Okay, then we are going to a part of Dr. Dorothy's property that is going to prove that Dr. Dorothy is a farmer.
So these are some buildings that we built ourselves. This barn that you see in the picture there is where we store the hay and the grain for the animals. And that building I built from lumber that I milled from trees cut from the property. So that building, even though I designed it to look old, it's only about 2 years old. And so you can see here some of the animals. We have Barbados hair sheep, and they're from the Barbados Islands. And the reason we have those is because they eat the underbrush and they keep the land cleared. And we also have chickens, and we get eggs from the chickens. And here's another chicken. And we have a Daisy May. Can you get her out?
Come on, Daisy.
Come here, Daisy.
Okay. Okay.
This is Daisy
Sheep,
May.
a donkey. Okay. That's Daisy May.
Yeah. Daisy May.
Okay.
And here are
Daisy
some of the
May.
sheep.
Okay. How many do you have?
So you can see the sheep. We have about 15 sheep.
Okay. And how many chickens do you
And,
have?
We have 6 chickens. We don't have a very big chicken coop. This is Gina wanted chickens, so I built her this chicken coop last year. Again, this is all made from wood that we milled in our own sawmill. And let's see, we'll see if there are any eggs here.
Okay. We will come for breakfast.
Not yet.
Do you have eggs?
No eggs yet.
No eggs.
They
Okay.
usually lay about 5 or 6 eggs each day.
Okay. Then you have eggs for breakfast.
And so now we'll walk toward my woodworking shop. This is my axe throwing area. I have a foundry and I make axes. And this is where we test the axes. And this is a stump axe throwing area. And so anyway, this is the backyard. And there's the house.
Okay. Then you have a lawn in front of the house and then the forest.
Yeah, so this is the top of the mountain right here. And it's been cleared, and this is a probably about a 2 or 3 hectare yard, so it's a lot to mow. But luckily, Gina likes to mow, and she keeps the yard. And so if you look the opposite direction, this is the view in the opposite direction, and you can't see that well. I know the sun's really bright, but you can see that's the opposite direction down the mountain that we were looking earlier. So now we will go down to the woodworking and metalworking shop. This is where I like to work, building furniture, and I make toys, and I have a foundry and a forge and make knives and axes and things like that. Unfortunately, we don't have great connectivity in the woodworking shop. So Gina's going to hold the camera outside, and I'll go inside and try to describe some of the things you might be seeing.
Okay.
One more step.
That's the woodworking shop where Dr. Dorothy is inventing and creating things.
So this is these are all my tools and some of the projects I'm working on right now. I built this cupola for my uncle. This is to go on top of a gazebo in his yard, and that's you can see over here. I don't know if you need to blow that up or not. You can see this is a table I'm making for my mother-in-law. These are the legs. And I just started making this. And all my tools. And over here, we have the forge. I'll show you a few things that I made for that. These are the axes that I make. And you can see they're for the throwing axes, so people use them to throw. And I make them in this forge right here, and it's a nice distraction from what I do at work, and it gives me an opportunity to try something different. But in this shop, I do woodworking, metalworking. I work on our vehicles. We have we have lawnmowers and chainsaws and all kinds of tools in here that are constantly in need of repair. And this is also a place where sometimes I make things for things that I'll use at work. For example, let me show you one thing.
Okay, then really, as Gina Doherty told us, Dr. Doherty is really very resourceful, and he can do things from nothing. Yeah.
So this is I was wanting my students at work to understand how gears work and how we can change rotary motion. So I made drilling a hole in wood, and I really like the way this came out. So I included this in one of my classes where students have to make their own drill, and it's primarily just to understand how tools work. And this is an example of something I made here that then translated back to what I do at the university. And so this just has real simple gears. It has a drive wheel and a spur gear, and it changes rotary motion into linear motion back into rotary motion. So it changes the direction of the rotary motion. So it's a good example of the Six Simple machine. Prepared a couple of videos from materials from the sawmill. And so side after those videos.
Okay, then I'm going to switch on the videos for the people to explore your property, to continue to explore. And while they are going to explore your property, you are going to be back to your house. Am I right?
That's right, yes.
Okay.
Hey, everybody. We've shown you a few things around our home, but I want to show you some things that are probably not going to work for live stream. So I've shot a couple of videos, and this first one, I just want to show you a few things on our property. We have 20 hectares here, and one thing that we have is a sawmill. And in America, when you have land, you own that land, and you can do about anything you want with that land, as long as you're not hurting the environment. And so if I want to cut a tree and cut it into lumber, I can do that. And so I'm going to drive you down now, and this is what we call our mule. It's a Kawasaki, and we use this to get around on the property. And so I'll try to talk on the way down, but it might be kind of loud. But I'll try to point out a few things on some of the trails back to the sawmill. So my wife is filming this. She's going to get in now, and we'll drive down to the sawmill. It's not in very good shape right now, but we do grow some vegetables and those sorts of things. And we're getting ready to enter the forest. Most of our property is forested, and we live on top of a mountain, so there's not very much flat, level ground. Now we're going down a trail toward the sawmill. It's been raining a lot, so it's very muddy back here now. There's my tractor, and I use that to lift the logs onto the sawmill. You can see I have a number of logs here. They didn't all come from this land, but sometimes other people give me logs, and I cut them on the sawmill. Wood shed where I store the wood after I've cut it into lumber, and we'll step into the sawmill here, and I'll show you that quickly. So this is the sawmill, and this is a log that I've just cut, and a few boards that I've cut off of the sawmill. And I built this shed just to house the sawmill. And you might look at this shed and think, well, that thing is old, it's all rusty. But I made it that way because I wanted it to fit into the environment. I wanted it to look like it's been here for a long time, even though it's a fairly new structure.
Repurposed.
Yeah, repurposed all this metal, and it's off of old structures that have been leveled. So this is the sawmill, and my sons and I cut a lot of lumber down here that we use some of it for our own projects, but we also sell it to neighbors, and I sell it online as well because we only cut hardwood like walnut and oak and ash and things like that. We don't have any softwoods here like pine or cedar or anything like that.
There's a little lizard.
So a lot of wildlife out here. We're right on the edge of the cliff, and so now we'll drive you down and show you a cabin we made from lumber that we cut on the sawmill. So that'll be the next video. Now we're going to leave the sawmill and go further back on the property on one of our trails. We have many trails on this property that we either hike or ride this vehicle on. And we're going to end at the cabin that my sons and I built from lumber that we got from the sawmill. So it might be kind of bumpy, but we'll try to keep the camera as steady as possible. We're going downhill at pretty steep grade here. Still going down the hill, down the mountain. Fall here a few weeks ago, and I haven't gotten it cleaned up yet, but that's the cabin, and it's just a weekend cabin, and it has no water, but it has solar electricity, and we'll walk to the porch of it and show you the view down the mountain to the waterfall. So this cabin we built all from wood from the sawmill. So this wood all came from the property. So if you listen carefully, you can hear the waterfalls. We have two waterfalls that meet here, but with the trees all leaved out, you can't really see them very well. But in the fall and spring, the waterfalls just roar right here. So this is the cabin, and it's just a small weekend cabin that we stay in sometimes. So that's just the kind of the back part of the property, and just another thing that we enjoy on the weekends and in the evenings, and gets us out into nature and lets us enjoy the natural world.
Okay, welcome back. Then the Dohertys, Mike and Gina Doherty, are in their house now. I would like to compliment you because we have some comments. You have a fabulous place, and your house is really, the property is really impressive. Thank you so much for showing your property, because generally it's really impressive. Now we're going to go on with our discussion. And could you summarize what your hobbies are? We saw that you are a farmer, you are an inventor, you are an explorer. Could you summarize what you like to do? Okay, I don't have the sound.
There's no, you can hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Very, it's very grainy. Your sound is, Victoria.
Mine? Okay, let me see. Let me do. Okay, can you hear me better now? I can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear us now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay.
So one thing I forgot to mention, well, first of all, I hope you enjoyed the tour of the sawmill and the cabin, and I hope the camera wasn't too shaky. But one thing I wanted to share in the woodworking shop is I told you I make axes, but I didn't tell you the origin of that. And the origin of that starts in Baltimore, Moldova. And so when I was in Baltimore, I went to the market there, which I love the market there, and I met a man at the market who makes axes. This is an axe that man made, and I bought this axe from him in Baltimore, and I wrapped this up in cardboard and very carefully concealed it in my luggage, where it probably would not be there when I arrived home, because I thought for sure the security would probably take it out of my luggage, but they didn't. I have it, and I use this as a pattern to start making my own throwing axes. So we use these to throw as a game, to throw at the stump. And my original pattern came from a craftsman in Baltimore. So I think this is one thing that really interests me, is to find something like this and then bring it into my own world. And anyway, this is one that traces right back to your country.
Okay, could you tell me, did the boys inherit any of your hobbies?
Yeah, I think they do. Particularly my oldest son, he's very, very interested in using tools and working with his hands. Even though he works in an industry where he's a distributor, he is right now has bought a piece of land, probably about 10 hectares, and is building his own home on it, using some of the things that he has learned here on this property. So he definitely likes to use the tools. In fact, he left early this morning. He had the day off from his work, and so he left early this morning with a load of tools to go work on his house. So yes, my sons do use some of the things they've learned here at home.
Do the hobbies, the things that you like to do and you enjoy doing, help you in the professional field, in teaching?
Do your hobbies help you in the professional field?
Oh, yeah, so they do. So I've had a number of things that I've started here at home, maybe as a hobby or maybe as something for my grandchildren, have translated into things that I brought into my classes. For example, let me show you some examples of that. So when we had our first grandchild, I started making toys for him, and this is like a little race car. One of the first things that I made for him was a race car. And then I decided, well, what if I could make these toys more mechanical? So this is a goose with an egg, and when you roll it, the egg rolls. And then I kept thinking about how to make these things more and more mechanical. And so this is an example of a grasshopper, and when you roll it, it hops. And this is a hippopotamus, and when you roll it, its mouth goes open and closed. And I just kept trying to make them more and more interesting and complicated. This is a train, an old-fashioned train. And this is a seal with a ball. Anyway, I've made all these toys, and then I thought, well, I wonder if I could add sound to it. So this is a dog, and when it rolls, it makes a noise. It makes a barking noise. But anyway, I made a lot of these different toys for my grandson, who's 2 years old now. You met him earlier. And then I thought, well, this would be something I could bring into my STEM courses that I teach at the university, because I'm trying to teach students about motion and about mechanisms and gears and pulleys and levers and that sort of thing. And so now I've started something in my classes where I have students build automata. And this is an example of automata. It's basically, again, it's just changing motion. So you change rotary motion into linear motion and then back into rotary motion. And this is called reciprocating motion. And you see these workers. This is called working on the railroad. And so the students make their own automata. And what we do in class is they select a scene from a story, a book that they've read. So this is our way to tie literacy into it. And then they develop an automata that acts out a scene from that book. So this is one way that the things I do here translate back into my classes.
Okay, that's great. Now I have 2 questions for Gina Doherty. Gina, could you be so kind to join the conversation? Okay. Could you tell me, do you think that Mike is really a Renaissance man?
Well, I have to admit that I didn't really even know what that meant. So I had to Google that. But what I learned was that it's a person who has many talents and also many areas of expertise or knowledge. And yes, I definitely think he is, based on that criteria. Mike not only is interested in all of his technology education and all of his STEM projects education, but he also has, as you have seen, many talents and many hobbies. So I think that makes him a very well-rounded individual. So I would say yes, I think he's a Renaissance.
Okay, then we should admit that we have next to us a Renaissance man somewhere in Arkansas, Renaissance man of the 21st century. And there is one more question, Gina. Do you think Mike special?
Do I think he's special?
Yes. Do you really think that he's special?
Most of the time, I think he's special. We've been married almost 30 years. So,
Great.
Yeah.
We're very happy.
There's a lot I like about him.
Okay. Then, is there a feature of the character that makes him really very, very special for your family and for your community?
I think just leadership skills, as far as he is a leader in the community, at the university, and with our family. He's never let us down, and he just excels at anything he does. Okay,
we do know that he wants perfection in everything, and that's about him. Okay, we have 2 questions for you from the audience.
Okay.
Then the first question is, What else would you like to learn to do? Then you know to do a lot of things. Is there anything else that you would like to learn to do?
You know, there's a lot of things I'd like to learn. Some of them in my academic life and some at home. But right now, the things that probably interested me most is I would like to be able to use big, heavy equipment like big excavators and big bulldozers and things like that. I've never done that, and I think that would be really interesting to build like a pond or a lake or something like that. And I know that sounds kind of crazy, but my son has this piece of property where he's been able to use big, heavy equipment to make things that improve the property. And I've never done that. So I'm kind of looking forward to doing more of that.
Okay, we forgot to tell the audience that you are an inventor. Could you speak a little bit about the inventions?
Well, okay. So when I was in graduate school, I invented a few different items. And one of them became a pretty big success. And I thought at the time, I was probably 26 or 27 years old. And I thought, well, I'm going to start my own company and make this product. And I went to a trade show and I exhibited the product, and people just really liked it. And they signed up to order this. They actually started making orders. And when I got home, I realized that I didn't have the wherewithal to make all these products. It was just too much, because I just made this at home in my garage, and I had hundreds of orders for this device. It was so luckily for me, a big manufacturer had seen me at the trade show where I was exhibiting this invention, and he called me and offered to buy the invention from me. And so I negotiated with him, and I ended up selling him the rights to manufacture this product. And it's a product that's used to test structures, like scale model structures like bridges and arches and trusses. And they're used in science and engineering classes really all over the world. And in fact, I've seen them in elementary or primary schools. I've seen them in lyceum type schools, and I've seen them at the universities, really all over the world. And I wish I had the wherewithal to manufacture them, but I didn't have the funds to set up a factory to make them. But the company that I sold them to has treated me very well over the years. But I have an interest in invention. I think I get that from my father, who is very inventive as well, and always inventing new products and ideas to solve human problems.
We have another question.
Yeah.
How do you find time for everything? Then we know that you are a very successful professor. That means you publish a lot and you have a lot of lessons. You speak about STEM nationally, internationally. And at the same time, you have so many hobbies and you do a lot of things. How do you find time for everything?
Well, I don't know. I have a lot of products and projects that are not finished all the time. So I have a lot of things that are about half finished, and I maybe lose a little interest in them and move on to something else. That's probably a flaw of mine, is I lose interest after a while, and I don't. Historically, I haven't watched a lot of television and that sort of thing. So for my entertainment in the evenings, when some people might sit down and watch television, I'll go to my shop and make something. And so I think that it's just, not using time to watch television and maybe using that time to pursue your hobbies. So, but I admit I have a lot of hobbies, and my family and my wife have been very, very gracious to allow me to pursue those.
Okay, thank you so much. Then the final thought, Dr. Doherty, then in your house, the final thought.
Uh,
You are really, we have to admit altogether that you can be named the Renaissance man of the 21st century. Could you give some, I don't know, recommendations to the people in such a way that we have more Renaissance men all around the world?
I can't hear.
Give her some advice to.
Some pieces of advice to the other.
Okay, so well, I think that my advice is to pursue your curiosities and to try things even though they might fail. I've had a lot of failures. A lot of things I've tried have turned out to not work. I would encourage you to use time management techniques to keep on task. And I also encourage you to separate your home life and your work life as much as you can. When I'm at home, I'm always thinking about how things I'm doing here might translate to the things I'm doing in the classroom. And when I'm at work, I do the same. And I think of things I'm doing at work and how I might use them at home. But I try to separate them as much as I can because I think that everybody needs to have a balanced life. And like I said at the beginning, nobody lays on their deathbed and thinks, wow, I wish I'd spent more time at work. Nobody does that. Everybody at the end of their life thinks, I wish I'd have spent more time with the people I love and my family and my friends and my colleagues. And so I encourage you to do that and to try to find a balance between your work life and your home life.
Thank you so much, Dr. Doherty and Gina Doherty, for having us today in your house. That was a wonderful episode of Breakfast Intellectual Bites. Dear audience, in case that you want to visit the Dohertys again, write in the comments. We're going to persuade them to invite us once again and to speak about things that they're good at, because they are really a wonderful family. Thank you greatly, Dr. Doherty. Thank you greatly, Gina Doherty. Although I don't see her, I know that she is in there. Thank you so much for having us in your house. That was wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, dear followers, for keeping an eye on us. We really believe that we're supposed to continue with Breakfast Intellectual Bites and make you to learn more about America, about American households and the traditions. Thank you greatly. Don't forget that serving the others, that's the rent that we pay being here on Earth. Bye, and see you at another episode of Breakfast Intellectual Bites. See you.